Okay, here's a fun fact for you. This is a dead bird on the ground. And that may be kind of morbid, but one thing I learned from an epidemiologist years ago, back in Chicago, most animals that are not pets, they don't die from old age. They die from a predator most of the time. In cities, when you see a dead bird on the ground like that, the majority of the time, it has died from a disease, and the majority of the time that it's died from a disease, it died from H1N1. I think I'm remembering the numbers correctly. In cities, when you see a dead bird, such as that one, it's highly likely that it died from bird flu. Now, years ago, or even just last year, no one would think that was interesting. But now, because of the coronavirus pandemic, a lot more people understand
zoonotic
diseases and how diseases can jump from one species to another species. And a few years ago, bird flu was spreading around the world, but we didn't have the level of pandemic that we're having now with coronavirus. So bird flu is something we need to pay attention to, and we do pay attention to it. But all of that research is government funded. When governments cut funding for it, that's bad. That made us less prepared for coronavirus, and it makes us less prepared for the next virus, because there will be the next virus. And the pandemic of 1918, also called the Spanish flu, was bird flu. So the people in government that cut funding for these epidemiologists studying dead birds in the city are stupid. Those politicians are idiots for cutting the funding. In fact, I have seen studies, this was before coronavirus, I have seen studies that said the amount of money we should be spending on studying diseases in animals, such as bird flu in cities, that amount of funding should be a minimum of 5 times its current level, and that really, if we wanted to have a minimal amount of safety, it should be 10 times what we're currently spending. And that's just a floor. These studies were saying if we spent 100 times, like 2 orders of magnitude, more on studying diseases in non-human populations, that all of that money would be good money, would be money well spent. Of course, 1 year ago, you would have had a hard time convincing 95% of the population that that was a true statement. But I hope that now a lot more people can see the value in spending money to study dead birds in cities, because bird flu will jump back to the human population again. It will happen. It happens regularly. It happens every year, literally, but most years it only infects 1 person or 5 people. But eventually it will jump and it will infect 100 million people. the better prepared we will be. Because coronavirus is bad, but it is not as deadly as the 1918 pandemic. The world would be in chaos if it were. So, dead birds in the city actually have an impact on your life. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
Feed the YouTube algorithm. Click like, subscribe, and share. Encourage pro-social behavior and join us on Patreon. I am disabled and homeless, but with your support, I can be self-sufficient again.